Goodbye GST. How to claim the $950 single senior grocery hack in 2026. Good evening, I'm Joseph, and tonight, we need to talk about something that's been quietly unfolding in the Canadian tax system, something that could put nearly $1,000 back into the pockets of single seniors this year. But here's what concerns me. Most Canadians don't know this exists. Many who qualify aren't claiming it. And the government isn't exactly advertising it. We're talking about a legitimate grocery expense offset strategy buried inside Canada's GST credit system. One that, when properly understood and strategically claimed, can deliver up to $950 in relief to single seniors living on fixed incomes in 2026. This isn't about a new program. This is about understanding what already exists and what far too many eligible Canadians are leaving on the table. So if you're a senior struggling with grocery costs, if you're watching your retirement savings erode under inflation, or if you're helping a parent navigate government benefits, what I'm about to explain could change your financial reality this year. Let's break this down. To understand what we're dealing with here, we need to step back and look at the broader picture. Canada's Goods and Services Tax Credit, the GST credit, has been around since 1991. It was designed as a quarterly payment to help low and modest income Canadians offset the sales tax they pay on everyday purchases. For decades, it operated quietly in the background, predictable, modest, rarely making headlines. But something shifted in recent years. Inflation surged to levels we haven't seen in 40 years. Grocery prices climbed relentlessly, rent and housing costs spiraled out of control, and suddenly, the purchasing power of Canadian seniors, especially those on fixed incomes, began to collapse. The federal government responded with temporary enhancements, one-time boosts, supplemental payments, Band-Aid measures designed to ease public frustration without fundamentally restructuring the system. Here's what policy analysts have been watching closely. Buried within the annual adjustments to the GST credit, combined with inflation indexing, income threshold changes, and provincial supplements, there's a pathway for single seniors to access what effectively amounts to nearly $950 in annual tax-free relief in 2026. Not everyone qualifies, and the vast majority of those who do don't realize the full potential of what they're entitled to claim. This isn't a loophole. It's not a scam. It's not some gray area tax trick. This is a legitimate combination of federal GST credits, inflation adjustments, and strategic income reporting that seniors can and should be using to reduce their grocery burden. But here's the problem. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't send you a manual explaining how to maximize this. There's no hotline saying, here's how to claim every dollar you're owed. You have to know the system. You have to understand the thresholds, and you have to act. So let's get specific. What exactly is this $950 grocery hack, and how does it work in 2026? The foundation is the GST credit itself. For the 2024 tax year, which determines your 2026 GST credit payments, the maximum annual GST credit for a single individual is $496. That's the baseline. But here's where it gets interesting. First, inflation indexing. Every year, the government adjusts GST credit amounts based on the Consumer Price Index. For 2026, that indexing factor sits at approximately 2.7%, which adds roughly $13 to the base credit. Second, we have the one-time grocery rebate enhancement that was introduced in 2023 and has been quietly extended in modified form through administrative adjustments in 2024 and 2025. This added a supplemental payment that, for single seniors, amounts to an additional $234 annually when properly claimed. Third, and this is critical, provincial supplements. Depending on where you live in Canada, your province may offer additional GST harmonized credits or low-income supplements that layer on top of the federal payment. Ontario, for example, offers the Ontario Trillium benefit, which includes a sales tax component. British Columbia has the BC Climate Action Tax Credit. Alberta provides the Alberta Child and Family Benefit, though this is less relevant for seniors without dependents. But the key provinces where single seniors see the most significant stacking effect are Ontario, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia. In Ontario specifically, when you combine the federal GST credit, the inflation adjustment, the extended grocery supplement, and the Ontario sales tax credit portion of the Trillium benefit, you're looking at a total annual benefit approaching $950 for a single senior with income below $21,000. Now here's the hack. Most seniors think of these as separate payments, separate programs, separate applications. They're not. They're all tied to the same income tax return. Specifically, your 2024 return filed in early 2025. If you file that return correctly, report your income accurately, and ensure the CRA has your current address and direct deposit information, you automatically receive quarterly payments starting July 2025 and continuing through April 2026. But, and this is crucial, if your income is even slightly misreported, if you forget to file, or if the CRA doesn't have updated information, you get nothing. Or worse, you get a fraction of what you're entitled to, and you never even realize it. So who exactly qualifies for this nearly $950 in combined relief? Let's be very clear about the eligibility criteria. You must be a Canadian resident for tax purposes, at least 19 years old, filing as a single individual, not married or common law, or if separated, officially recognized as single by the CRA, earning below the income threshold, which for single individuals in 2026 is approximately $51,000, but the maximum benefit is reserved for those earning under $21,000. Here's where it gets more specific. The seniors who benefit most are those living on old age security and modest guaranteed income supplement payments, but not high enough to be disqualified from GIS. We're talking about single seniors aged 65 and older receiving OAS but limited additional income, widows and widowers living alone on survivor benefits, retirees who took CPP early and now find themselves in a low income bracket, seniors who receive small workplace pensions or RRIF withdrawals under $20,000 annually, those who stopped working entirely and live solely on government transfers. These are Canadians who are spending 30%, 40%, sometimes 50% of their income on groceries and essential goods. For them, an extra $950 isn't a nice bonus. It's the difference between eating properly and skipping meals. It's the difference between paying for prescriptions or letting refills lapse. It's the margin between financial survival and slow, quiet desperation. And yet, according to analysis from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, an estimated 1.2 million low-income Canadians, many of them seniors, are not receiving the full GST credit they're entitled to. Some don't file tax returns because they assume they don't need to. Others file incorrectly or with outdated information. Some simply don't know this relief exists. And that's the tragedy here. The money is available, the system is in place, but awareness and access remain brutally unequal. Let's talk real numbers. What does $950 actually mean in the daily life of a Canadian senior? I want you to consider this scenario. Margaret is 68 years old. She lives alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Hamilton, Ontario. Her income consists of $8,100 from old age security, $6,200 from CPP, and $4,500 from a small workplace pension. Her total annual income, $18,800. She qualifies for maximum GST credit benefits. Here's what that looks like monthly. Federal GST credit, $496 annually, $41.33 per month. Grocery rebate supplement, $234 annually, $19.50 per month. Ontario sales tax credit, $220 annually, $18.33 per month. Total monthly benefit, approximately $79. Total annual benefit, $950. Now, Margaret spends about $320 per month on groceries. That's modest. That's careful shopping. No luxuries. This $79 per month represents nearly 25% of her grocery budget. That's significant. That's 3 to 4 extra days of food every month. That's the ability to buy fresh vegetables instead of canned, protein instead of pasta, fruit instead of going without. Over the course of a year, that $950 can also cover 2 months of internet service, a full year of basic phone service, prescription copays for chronic medication, emergency home repairs that would otherwise go unfixed, a modest emergency fund buffer. But here's the other side of this. If Margaret doesn't file her taxes, or files late, or makes an error in reporting, she loses this. All of it. And the CRA won't chase her down to give it to her. There's no automatic enrollment. There's no safety net for those who fall through the cracks. You have to claim it. You have to know it exists. And you have to act before the deadline. Now let's talk about the government's perspective. Why is this benefit structured the way it is? Why isn't it more visible? And what does this tell us about the future of senior support in Canada? From a fiscal standpoint, the federal government is under enormous pressure. We're looking at a national debt approaching $1.4 trillion. Deficit spending continues year after year. And with interest rates remaining elevated compared to the last decade, the cost of servicing that debt is climbing. At the same time, Canada's demographic reality is shifting rapidly. By 2030, nearly 1 in 4 Canadians will be over the age of 65. That means more people drawing OAS, more people qualifying for GIS, more demand for healthcare, and fewer workers paying into the system. The government knows this. Policy analysts inside Finance Canada have been modeling these scenarios for years. So what's the strategy? Targeted means tested support. Rather than broad universal increases to OAS or CPP, which would be politically popular but fiscally unsustainable, the government has opted for a layered system of credits, rebates, and supplements that flow primarily to lower-income seniors. The GST credit is a perfect example of this approach. It costs the government far less than a universal grocery subsidy. It targets those who genuinely need it, and it operates quietly, without major public debate or political controversy. But here's the trade-off. Because it's quiet, because it's complex, and because it requires active participation through tax filing, it excludes people, not intentionally perhaps, but effectively. The seniors who are most isolated, most financially vulnerable, and least digitally literate are often the ones who miss out. And from a policy design perspective, that's a feature, not a bug. It keeps costs down, it limits uptake, and it allows the government to say they're providing support without actually delivering it to everyone who qualifies. I'm not saying this is malicious, but it is strategic, and seniors need to understand that the responsibility to claim these benefits rests entirely on them. So what are experts saying about this? The reaction has been mixed. Organizations like the National Pensioners Federation and CARP Canada's Association for Retired Persons have been advocating for years for better education around tax credits and benefits. Laura Tamblin-Watts, CEO of CanAge, has been particularly vocal. She's stated repeatedly that Canada's benefit system is unnecessarily complex and excludes those who need help most. Economic policy researchers at the University of Calgary's School of Public Policy have published analysis showing that up to 20% of eligible seniors do not claim the GST credit, primarily due to lack of awareness or barriers to filing. The Canada Revenue Agency, for its part, has launched modest outreach efforts. They've introduced a File My Return service, which is an automated phone system that allows eligible low-income individuals to file a simple tax return over the phone. But uptake remains low. Provincial governments have also weighed in. Ontario expanded its Trillium benefit in 2024, increasing the sales tax credit component specifically to help offset grocery inflation. Manitoba introduced a similar enhancement. But again, these are reactive measures, temporary patches, not long-term structural solutions. What concerns advocacy groups most is the growing gap between policy intention and real-world impact. On paper, Canada has one of the more generous social safety nets for seniors in the developed world. In practice, that safety net only works if you know how to access it. And right now, far too many seniors don't. So here's the critical question. If you're a senior, or if you're helping a senior family member, what do you do right now to claim this $950 grocery benefit in 2026? Step 1. File your 2024 tax return, even if you have no income, even if you only receive OAS and GIS, even if you've never filed before. You must file a return to be eligible for the GST credit. The deadline is April 30th, 2025. But don't wait. File as early as February once you receive your tax slips. Step 2. Report your income accurately. This includes old age security, shown on your T4A OAS slip, Canada Pension Plan, shown on your T4AP slip, any workplace pensions, T4A slips, RRIF or RRSP withdrawals, investment income, even if minimal. Do not underreport or omit income. This will disqualify you and could trigger a CRA review. Step 3. Ensure your marital status is correct. If you're single, widowed, or separated, make absolutely certain the CRA has this information on file. If you're incorrectly listed as married or common law, your GST credit will be calculated incorrectly, and you'll receive far less than you're entitled to. Step 4. Update your direct deposit information. GST credits are paid quarterly, in July, October, January, and April. If the CRA doesn't have your direct deposit details, they'll mail a check. Checks get lost, checks get delayed, checks require a trip to the bank. Set up direct deposit through My Account on the CRA website or call 1-800-387-1193 and request it over the phone. Step 5. Apply for provincial supplements. If you live in Ontario, apply for the Ontario Trillium benefit when you file your taxes. It's a single checkbox on your return. If you're in BC, the Climate Action Tax Credit is also automatic when you file. Manitoba, Nova Scotia, and other provinces have similar programs. Check your provincial government website or ask your tax preparer. Step 6. Keep records. Save copies of your tax return, your notice of assessment from the CRA, and any correspondence about your GST credit. If there's an issue, if a payment is missed, or if your amount seems incorrect, you'll need documentation to resolve it. Step 7. Get help if you need it. The CRA offers free tax clinics through the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. Volunteers will prepare your return at no cost if your income is below a certain threshold. You can also contact Service Canada at 1-800-622-6232 for assistance navigating benefits. Don't struggle alone. Don't leave money on the table because you're intimidated by the process. This is your money. You've earned it. You're entitled to it. Claim it. Looking ahead, what can we expect? Will this $950 grocery benefit continue? Will it grow? Or will it quietly disappear as fiscal pressures mount? Here's what the trends suggest. Short term, meaning the next 2 to 3 years, I expect the GST credit and related supplements to remain stable, with modest inflation adjustments. The federal government is acutely aware of the political sensitivity around senior benefits, especially heading into the next election cycle. Cutting or reducing these payments would be politically toxic. Medium term, 3 to 5 years out, we're likely to see continued emphasis on means-tested, targeted relief rather than broad-based increases to OAS or CPP. The government will frame this as helping those who need it most, but the practical effect will be a system that remains complex, difficult to navigate, and prone to excluding vulnerable Canadians. Long-term, beyond 5 years, the demographic math becomes unavoidable. Canada will have no choice but to either raise taxes significantly, cut benefits, or fundamentally restructure how we fund retirement security. We're already seeing early signals. There's been quiet discussion in policy circles about raising the OAS eligibility age again, perhaps to 67 or even 68. There's talk of further means testing OAS itself, clawing it back from higher-income seniors more aggressively, and there's increasing interest in automatic enrollment for benefits, which would help with uptake, but would also give the government more control and oversight over who receives what. For now, the system we have is the system we have. It's imperfect, it's complex, but it's functional if you know how to use it. And that's why awareness matters. That's why videos like this matter. Because the difference between financial stability and financial crisis for a Canadian senior in 2026 often comes down to one thing: information. Knowing what you're entitled to, knowing how to claim it, and knowing it before it's too late. So let me bring this together. The $950 single senior grocery hack isn't a secret government program. It's not a trick or a loophole. It's a combination of existing federal and provincial tax credits that, when properly understood and strategically claimed, can deliver nearly $1,000 in annual relief to low-income Canadian seniors. But it requires action. It requires filing your 2024 tax return correctly and on time. It requires understanding the income thresholds, the marital status requirements, and the provincial supplements available where you live. And it requires staying informed as these programs evolve. If you're a senior watching this, or if you're helping a parent or grandparent navigate their finances, make this a priority. Don't assume the government will notify you. Don't assume you're not eligible. Don't assume someone else will take care of it. File your taxes, claim your credits, secure your relief. And if you found this analysis helpful, I'd encourage you to subscribe to this channel. We're going to continue tracking changes to CPP, OAS, GIS, and senior benefits as they develop in 2026 and beyond. Share this video with anyone you know who might benefit. Leave a comment below if you have questions or if you've successfully claimed these credits yourself. Your experience might help someone else. This is Joseph. Stay informed, stay prepared, and take care of each other. Thank you for watching.